All right, welcome back, everybody. I tried to make this as short as possible and still took about 30 minutes, but there'll be kind of three segments. So we're going to go over the different feedbacks here a little bit. And I'm not going to go through each one of them. We're going to go into Salvage itself, and then we're going to go into the questions that Salvage has. And at the end, I'll share my own feedback if you're interested in staying for that. If you want to just take a look at the questions, then feel free to watch just that part. And thank you for checking out the video. But here we are. I'm going to put a link in the description for this whole feedback form. There's a bunch in here. So let's get into I'll roll a little intro and let's get into it. See, there's a number of categories here, and one of those categories is salvaging. So let's jump right into that. You can see here, this is what they're looking to get feedback for on the salvage career, and there's kind of a blanket at the end where you can put any kind of remaining feedback. They're looking for feedback on salvage ships, salvage mechanics, distribution of salvageable entities, salvage contracts, stripping weapons slash components or weapons and components, structural salvage itself, and then this here is the link to actually get to the salvaging feedback screen. So here we are. Obviously, I've already pre-filled some of this out because this is not my first take. So I do want to try to streamline this as much as possible, though. So here we're going to run through all the feedback questions, and then I'll start giving you my thoughts. And at the end, I'm actually not going to fill out these live because they'll just take too long. But I want to share some of my thoughts on how they could potentially improve salvage. I've been wanting to make a video like this for some time, kind of a how to fix salvage. I just haven't made it, and this is now a perfect opportunity to do that. So how would you rate the current state of salvage? This is where you would just put a ranking here. There is no with all these star ones, the actual rating 1 to 5. I'm assuming 5 is the highest. It actually doesn't put that here, but I'm assuming 5 stars is best. There's no way to actually put any feedback here. So it's just strictly ranking by the stars. Here we have how do you improve the current state of salvaging. This is open to feedback, and this does expand. So you can give quite a bit of feedback here. I imagine there's probably some sort of actual letter amount or character limit. I just don't know what it is. How would you rate the current implementation of structural salvage? You would then put your ranking here. What could be done to improve structural salvage? That's where you can give again. You can write out feedback here. How would you rate the current state of salvaging ships? You would then put the ranking here. Any feedback for specific salvage ships, and then you would have the verbal feedback there. Where I'll focus on their claimer there, obviously. How would you rate the current state of salvage mechanics? You would put the ranking here. I actually haven't done that one yet because I want to do that one last. I also wanted to share some thoughts with you all before I put that in. How would you rate the current state of distribution of salvageable entities? How would you rate the current state of salvageable contracts? How would you rate the current state of stripping weapons and components? And then do you have any suggestions or further feedback on salvaging? So let's start from the top. I'm going to go through each of the actual star rankings first, and then I'll start sharing my thoughts. And I'm being open about these. If you just want to see the questions, I appreciate all taking the time to look at these questions, and feel free to head in there and give your feedback. If you're looking to be influenced by my thoughts on salvage, no, not really. I honestly, if you're just interested on my thoughts on salvage, let's get into it. So, how would you rate the current state of salvaging? I put it as a 4. In the current state, I think salvaging is the gameplay loop I'm most interested in Star Citizen. It is, in some instances, what gets me to log in to play the game on occasion when I have no interest in playing the game otherwise. That sounds terrible. When I don't have interest to play the game, salvaging is something that could pull me in on occasion. Honestly, though, bounty hunting and stuff like that does that too. So, like, I actually haven't been doing all the salvaging recently, but if they got rid of salvaging, that would really hamper my wanting to play the game. Just being straight up there. Um, I do like some of the other other content that's available. Obviously, it's fairly all low key and not PvP and whatnot. So I'm just not that kind of player. But I do finding salvaging to be something I really like, and I have done a lot of imagination, or I can envision a lot of the different salvaging things, and I can currently work with the current version of salvage just fine. And I am kind of building out my fleet based upon that as well. So I do want to have that in mind when I give this feedback. So we'll come back to how we can improve it. How would you rate the current implementation of structural salvage? I have that fairly high here. I have it at a 3. I was kind of back and forth on 2 and 3. I do get that it's currently money printing. I don't necessarily want it that way. I just, if I was in like maybe I came from a different life as a space salvager, and I'm just stuck on this big blue planet at this point, blue and green planet. But this flat Earth of ours. Now they said that they're planning to put a flat Earth tag um, on my video. Anyways, how would you rate the current implementation of structural salvage? I put it as a 3 because I don't know. Honestly, I think it's not terrible, but I do think it could be better, and we'll get into how I think it can get a bit better. How would you rate the current state of salvaging ships? I put this as a 3 as well. Honestly, I'm going to put it down as a 2. When I first started talking about this, I like the salvaging ships, but I want to get into how I think they're currently implemented. And I think the biggest feedback here is um, the blocker for new players and trying to get into salvage. If you're starting out the game, they're pretty much forcing you to buy the vulture at its high cost, artificially high, I would say. I think the out of store, like the in store pledge ship price, is artificially too high. When you compare it to something like the Prospector, which is the entry from mining, is higher than that. And I don't think there's a reason they should do that, assuming they get the salvaging part right on be able to make that money in game. So, yeah. I don't know if they lower prices ever on ships, but that one definitely needs to come down. I'll do feedback on specific salvaging ships there. So I think again the Vulture, I think the price is too high here, and then I'll give feedback obviously on the Reclaimer. Needs a lot of love. How would you rate the current state of salvaging mechanics? I will come back to this one. I don't know. I think for right now I'll put it as a 3 because I'm back and forth on whether they should change it or not. But I do have some ideas on how they could change it to make it better and less hated by people that aren't salvagers and the money printing aspect of it. How would you rate the current distribution of salvage entities? This is where I would hit hard on the salvaging components on making it better. It's dealing with the RMC and construction material and how we can better do that. So I will talk about that. How would you rate the current state of salvaging contracts? They are hot garbage. I have it at 1 here, not only because I have my character is currently bugged. I do not have access to salvaging contracts. My rep is negative, which is quite funny for somebody that sees salvage as their main gameplay loop. Um, yeah, it the salvage contracts are broken for me. I have done the character repair. Doesn't matter. Doesn't fix it. I know how to fix it. I have put a video together for that. So if yours is broken as well, please feel free to take a look at my video on that. I could put that if someone asks for it down below. I'll end up putting it in the description. For now, I'm not going to put it in there. But if people are having that problem, please let me know. I'll give that video a link, and then I'll end up putting it in the description. For now, initially, I don't plan on putting it in the description. But that being said, salvaging, I've got it as 1 because they're terrible anyways. So I've currently been playing this patch. I actually played, I think, last patch as well, without without fixing it because they're that bad anyway. So even if I could fix it, I wouldn't fix it, or I haven't fixed it. So I know how to fix it. I haven't fixed it, or I haven't done the workaround to make it better, and I don't care because they're bad anyways. Um, the unrestricted ones are pretty good. There's only a couple of those now because it's been nerfed, but generally speaking, yeah, salvaging contracts it's a hot garbage right now. Stripping of weapons components, I also put it here 1 because I think it's not good. So as far as salvaging is concerned, you really want to pick up. If I'm picking up weapons components, I'm trying to put them in I'm in the Vulture, and I'm trying to put them in the bed area of the ship, the hab area, habitation area of the ship, just because that's where there's space for it and it makes more sense because I don't want to waste any SCUs of space with these components because there's no use for that. Additionally, these weapons components are their own entities, and it's not uncommon for you to start to mess up your vulture when you start to put them in your ship. So, all in all, I think stripping weapons components, I'd love for it to be better. But as of right now, the time value money on it is not worth it. And so, yeah, that's just where it's at. They're a 1 star. I don't know if they can make that better. I would like to see them make it better. Probably, I would need an 8 SCU box in my ship, and I can put those components in there. That's probably, or honestly, um, there is a spot on the Vulture on the top above the trunk area that's kind of wasted that needs to have maybe a little 4 SCU box back there, and you can put things in it. Just do that. Just put allow you to carry a 4S up to a 4 SCU box back there, maybe even an 8 SCU box on the like a trailer on the top there, and or just make it a lockable grid and let people choose what size to put up there. But put an 8 SCU box up there, a 4 SCU box, and letting people put components in it would be much better than the current state. That way, it's not taking up any extra room. Again, if you want to put like a 4 SCU sized kind of box back there and then make that a component, like it's not actually an SCU box, but make that a storage back there, a bin, if you will. But make it about the size of a 4 SCU box and let people store stuff back there. Don't, I mean, I wouldn't really want aesthetically an 8 SCU box back there. It would look ridiculous. But if you just put a little 4 SCU box up there, any kind of box storage that's the same size and height of the main head of the ship. Again, there's space back there, so I would much rather see them put something back there, um, and then let people choose if they want it back there or not. Again, that's why I kind of want it as a 4SU box because you can just take it off. Um, Anyways, in the meantime, if you want to put 1 SU boxes of RMC and stuff back there, that's fine too. I think just making it a little four by one lockable grid would be ideal. All right. Back from the top. How would I improve the current state of salvaging? So these are my thoughts on it. Um, the way I envision I want salvaging to work is I want to be able to take my vulture, put it in something like the Ironclad, put it in something like the Liberator. If it fits in the Polaris, I will 100% be the person. I will be the Bob, whatever you want to call me. I will 100% put that vehicle into the Polaris, and I will go out and salvage with that bad boy. 100%. That is 100% happening with me if the fits in the Polaris, which I think it will at a diagonal. So I'm looking. The reason I picked up the Polaris because I fully expect it to fit in there, and I plan on doing salvaging out of the Polaris. That's the current state of the game for me, which is sad. I would much rather have the Ironclad and do that because the next part I envision is having the Liberator Ironclad where I can just lift off from there and use the cargo section to put my salvage. So that's what I want with my salvaging. That's where I want my Star Citizen kind of ness to kind of move into. I'm sure I want to do bounty hunting and stuff like that too, but that's where I want to see salvaging go, is being able to work out of a larger main hub ship and then having a smaller salvaging ship, even maybe a little Argo, kind of like Argo Cargo, little salvaging ship would be great. I don't know how many SUs it would carry, so it would be for very small jobs. But yeah, increasing accessibility for salvaging would be ideal, and making it possible to go out and salvage in a ship, I think, is also in a larger mothership would be great. So for now, I have to use that with the Vulture. That's my current train of thinking. So that's why I'm focusing on the Vulture for this. That being said, and far as actually improving the salvaging gameplay and making a little or refining it, making it better, is the refineries. So I think that the construction material, so the RMC and the gathering of that, there is a time component. So how do you kind of fix Star Citizen and the kind of money, hours, time value money? They call it time value money because there's a time and a value component. So you need to increase or decrease, you make the value less or you increase the time on that equation. And so RMC does have a time component that is measurable, and I think the pricing is fine. Obviously, people are going to say I'm biased on that. Obviously, they will probably nerf that a bit more, but I think it's fine. Leave it where about it's at now. It takes time to go out there and scrape those ships. It takes there's I'm just not going to give any extra feedback about the RMC component. Maybe it could go to the refiners too, but really I'm going to focus on the construction part here. The construction stuff needs to be treated like, for me, in my eyes, needs to be treated like a barrel of oil. That construction material, much like a barrel of oil, you can't just take a barrel of oil, take it to a refinery, and say, I now have a large barrel of gasoline for my car. That's not how oil works. The barrel of oil has to be refined down into different components. Some percentage of it is gasoline, some percentage of it's diesel, some percentage is plastics, components for, there's many things that a barrel oil can turn into, and all of it's used too. Yeah, and they refine that bad boy down. So construction material needs to be the same way. There'll be maybe a slider or a 1, 2, and 3 scale, or however many they want to come up with on refining it. And then there's also an instant buy option. So um, you can sell it unrefined at probably even a lower price than it's at now, or maybe about the same price. Otherwise, I think there should be an option to refine it and then get the money out of that refining job. And so this is feedback for not only salvage, but also hauling and mining. But I think salvaging, mining should be able to get the money back without having to go back to the refinery. They should get the money when the job's complete, just sent to their account. There shouldn't be any need to go back out to the refinery. Um, I would almost say you just deduct it and get the money instantly, but obviously they want to have a time, time value money. They want to have a time component on there. So just let person put a job in and have that money go to your account. However, if you choose you want to actually then be the hauler for it, then you let the refinery hold on to that. Get an alert or something. I don't fully know how the refineries work because I haven't done a lot of mining, so well, this might be a bit hypocritical, but what I would envision is you either decide you want the refinery to hold on to, you go pick it up and you haul it yourself, or what I would kind of prefer probably most of the time is I'm paying the refinery to refine it, and then when the job's done, they pay me, and then a hauler can then go out and purchase my salvage materials or mining materials if I did mining at the refinery and then trade it back and do hauling. So I think there's a little all these jobs should be working together. When you play another game, you have like herbalism and alchemy. You don't want to see mining and herbalism compete over the same resources. There's no need for it. That being said, when I look back at World of Warcraft, there are some competing things. There was mining and armor crafting. The blacksmithing went together, but then there is a what they call engineering that's used there, and those kind of compete over the mining resources. Sure, there should be some of that kind of overlay stuff, but I think salvaging, mining, all these different jobs should have a specific material. In this case, I think RMC, maybe RMC and construction material should be unique to the class. And in this case, that should be unique to the profession. Same thing with mining, Quantanium. Some of that stuff should be specific to mining and should not be able to be gathered by another um, profession. So when I look at construction material, I think when you refine it down, it should turn it back to titanium or other types of materials. They're relevant to a good income maker. Again, if you're looking to take that, so that's where I think salvaging should go. I think it should go to the refinery, at least for the construction material. So, as a salvager, if you want to not deal with the refineries, you just gather RMC. If you want to deal with the refineries, you can go gather construction material. Um, you go take it to refineries, have it refined if you want to do some of those jobs, and then go out and do some RMC gathering. Additionally, direct to sales to players. If they want to use RMC or construction material for base building, that would be great. So maybe in the future, one of these other ships you can somehow load those content into uh, the ability to the base building ship and have it turn those construction material or RMC into base building type materials. That would be great as well. So then salvagers can then sell those. Same thing with ore. Mining, take those components directly to a base building type ship and let people do base building off them. That would be great. But as of right now, the current state of the game, I think there probably needs to be a time component added to construction material, and not just continue to lower the price. It needs to be something that can be refined into other materials, and then maybe stored for later. Right? If people wanted to at this day, they can just start storing materials into their hangar and saving it for. There's no incentive for doing this now, but in the future state would be great to be able to save that stuff for a later date. All right. I think that's how they improve salvaging. At least that's one component. The other component, again, I don't want to take too long on this because I don't really believe in it, but someone did leave a comment. Heat. When you come to heat, how I would do that if I were to do it. But again, I don't personally want to do this. I'm not going to put this fee. I might put it as optional, something I don't want, but if they're going to do it, that would be heat and the salvaging heads. So I would do it as an efficiency thing. Um, each salvaging head has their own efficiency as well as diameter and collection rate. I would change the efficiency, I would have it lower over time based upon how long you've been salvaging. Now, I think this is kind of a wasted mechanic because all the player is going to have to do, or the way they'll have to work around this, is switch different heads. So previously, in the last couple patches, I used to carry two sets of a braid, so I would have four braid heads. Um, I would just, if their efficiency started going down, I would just swap heads. Um, Now, if I can just swap them between the different fire modes, that would be fine. If I had to actually physically get out of my ship and swap them, I would be pretty pissed about that. It's just, I think it's just a pointless need to do that. I just think it's adding um, I don't know. And some people might like that. So that's how I do it though, is I would have it drain the efficiency, not fast, but slowly as you're filling the hopper, dealing with the processing. I would think time would be needed in order for those to cool off, or use an extinguisher or something like that. Anyways, that's something that I saw feedback wise. That's how I would envision that working, is draining the efficiency. But again, I would be doing things to work around that. It would just be a time sink at that point and a nuisance. Um, I don't necessarily agree with that. How that That's how I would envision it playing out. But that's not something I really want to see in the game because again, I find it to be just a time sink and a nuisance. Um, but it's something I would work around. Additionally, the ships themselves. Again, I mentioned before, I think the Vulture is too high priced. It needs to be in the store at about 150 or so. Just I think it's 155 for the Prospector. It should be the same price. There's no reason to have a price difference there. I guess you can make the argument that it can carry SUs, whereas the like you could technically use it as a cargo trader, quote unquote, but you can't do that with the Prospector. But all in all, there's not a large need on why it should be a higher in price. So I think making that more accessible to players would be good. Having frequent sales on it, however you want to do that, but make it more accessible for the end user and the end player. Um, make it also a package deal. Make it Prospector, same thing. Make both of those ships available as starter ships. Make their cost for the actual game low because someone's already have to pay quite a bit to get into those. So make those costs pretty much nothing. Make the ship basically free at that point. So keep the price the same. Make it a starting package. Additionally, ideally, there's another ship that's added, maybe like a little Argo cargo, little Argo salvager that can be used, or if you want to do Aegis or whatever, Drake, whatever it may be, but make a little equivalent to like a little Argo cargo, a little Argo ship esque. They could do a little salvaging, maybe carry like 6 SUs or something like that, and then make that more accessible to the end players. Currently, there's only a couple tools that can do salvaging, the little cambios, but they don't either. They either work very inefficiency. So the little hand tool is terrible. Now the actual official cambio tool is doesn't work. Like you can salvage with it, but you can't actually sell those canisters. I still need to test that in the current iteration, but as of 324, they still didn't work. And so I'm expecting in 324.1, they probably still don't work. And that still needs to be fixed. I think it's being strictly not being fixed by CIG intentionally. I think they're leaving that fix out because they're continuing to make the salvage gameplay loop something you must buy in the pledge store, or you have to work unnecessarily hard for missions that are nerfed and pay out of game, pay the in-game price for something. Um, I think something like salvaging and mining should all be accessible to new players. And there's a large gap in salvaging for new players. And I think they get that. Um, they fill that gap. Obviously, it'll probably make less money at that point because it's just something CIG likes to do. I think that's unnecessary. I do think there needs to be an ability for people to make meaningful money in a meaningful time period to make the game fun. Long and short of it, right now, Star Citizen requires way too much of a time sink, and it just makes it inaccessible for new players. They need to get away from that. They need to realize the learnings that games like World of Warcraft and others have learned, which is if you're forcing the player to spend too much time in the game just to have some fun, they won't play the game. And we want people to play this game. So you must make the time commitment relatively short these days. Obviously, the demographic for this is probably 20 or 30 years old person. It's not specific to that demographic, but that is what is we're commonly finding people that play this game are our dads and other family people, other paraprofessional. Anyways, they're people that have their professional life. They have lives outside of the game. They need to not have a time sink in this game, and it just makes it much better for everybody if the time sink is lowered. And I think that would be important for the game as a whole, salvaging as well. So yeah, salvaging is a way to kind of negate some of that time sink because it just gives you more money based on the time you spend in the game. All the other game loops need to be brought in line with the salvaging money you can make, not the other way around. It doesn't need to be nerfed to the ground. It needs to be the game needs to be more accessible to people. Let them be able to buy the ships. Sure, they can grind to the current prices, but give them the ability to do that within a meaningful time period. If you want them to be able to purchase, a one reclaimer a month or something like that based off of time commitment, based off of 5 days of a day played for a couple hours a day, 2 or 3 4 hours a day. um, Obviously that's a pretty high commitment, so let's say 3 hours 4 hours a day of salvaging for a month will get you a reclaimer. Obviously you need to do that in the Vulture, but Yeah. Anyways, it just needs to be rebalanced as far as the amount of money you can make. I don't think it needs to go down on the salvaging. It needs to go up on the other time commitments because again, we want to make this game more accessible and more approachable for new players because the end goal is to experience the game, make money in game, and then purchase other ships in the game to have fun in the game. Take a shot every time I say game. Don't do that. You'll die. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and fill these out, but that's largely the feedback I'm going to give. I think all in all, I didn't talk about the reclaimer. The reclaimer needs a lot of love. I've done this so many times that I forget what I've talked about. The reclaimer piece here, the reclaimer needs to have a rework. Obviously, it needs to be brought in line more with what they they call a gold standard. I think any of the big ships like that need a medical bay. It just any capital ship is basically a capital ship at this point. It needs a medical bay. Um, so I would take the top stairwell part, the actual salvaging balcony. I would take that out. I would put a roof on there, and then I would go ahead. If you wanted to take the salvaging bay out too, you could. The second salvaging area, just have a cargo area down in the cargo. But anyways, it needs a salvaging bay. Ideally, too, it needs a medical bay, medical beds. Ideally, too, it has a hangar. It seems like most of the capital ships have a hangar as well. There's no reason to not be able to fit a little C8R or something like that in there, a little runabout. Would love to see the Vulture fit in it. That is a big ask. I get that feedback will not be popular, but I would love to see a Vulture fit in it. I would love to be able to go out on my reclaimer, do salvaging in the Vulture. So I get that is not going to be a popular ask and probably won't ever get anywhere. But if I'm going to dream big, it's going to be putting a Vulture in the reclaimer. Um, you know, that's probably about it. But as far as the reclaimer, it needs love. It needs medical bays. It needs to be reworked. I would also put the drone bays. I think I'd have to do a whole separate video on the reclaimer itself and how I would make that better. I'll put some of the feedback, but largely, again, I think it needs medical beds. It needs rework. Um, Going from the front of the ship to the back of the ship is just incredibly long. So yeah, it needs love. I don't think they can fix that part of it, but and that's not really my private feedback. My feedback really is, like I said, medical beds at a minimum, and it really just needs a rework. And I think a hangar, it needs a hangar on the top. Let the drones come out of that hangar as well. Let the hangar pop. Maybe the hangar pops open and the drones come out. I think they're meant to come out the top of the middle section there, but obviously we don't even have salvage drones yet. But when they do come out, I would love to see maybe them come out the hangar or something. Yeah, let's cut this down because it's been almost 30 minutes. So I want to thank you all for checking out the video and appreciate the taking the time to like and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all next time.